Today we're going to go over using Google Forms for remediation. One of the features we have in Google Forms is, based on the student's answer, you can direct them to a specific question in the form and skipping others. This is a way we can, if the students get it right, they go to the next question. If they get it wrong, they go to a question that gives them some more information, some remediation, and then ask them the question again. Okay, our presentation is broken up into 4 main parts: creating a test bank, how to import questions, planning the branching, which is the most important part of creating this form, and then creating the branching form itself. Okay, the first 2 sections are something that you can use more than just for this. Google Forms allows you to copy questions from other quizzes and other forms into a new form, so you don't have to type them over again. So, like if you ask for a student's name and ID and what class period they take, every quiz that you give them in Google Forms, just after a while it gets pretty boring typing it over and over again. Here's a way to save yourself a little bit, 5-10 minutes of time for each quiz. It adds up over time, because you can easily just go get those questions, import them in, and go to writing the questions for the particular quiz or form that you're doing. Okay. Also will let you build a review quiz for your students to take online by importing questions from all the previous quizzes and tests that you've given them in Google Forms, saving you time in making the review. Once you have them in, if you want, you can change the numbers, but you don't have to type the whole question again, especially if there's a lot of special characters. Let's go to the first part, creating a test bank. Let's learn something. Okay, we're going to be creating a test bank. So what we're going to do to demonstrate this is we're going to create some demographic questions that we'll be using, that we can use over and over again in every quiz. Student name, student ID, what class period they're in. Okay, so we're going to go to Google Forms. You click on your launch pad. You click on this icon for Forms. Once the home page for Forms loads up, you click right here on blank form. Okay, it'll open up a blank form for you to start filling out. So we're going to create a test bank with a set of demographic questions that we can reuse on future forms. So we're going to have questions for name, ID, and class period. Okay, these are what our demographic questions are going to look like. Okay, student name, last name, first name. You can do one question, or you can do 2. It's entirely your choice how you want to do it. Do it with one question, you can guarantee you're going to have students that won't follow the pattern that you put up. ID number, and with ID number, I'll show you how to limit the mistakes they can make on this one. And then class period is, you can either have a drop down or a multiple choice. I use a drop down because it's not really something that's going to be right or wrong. So let's exit our presentation. Let's go to Google Forms. Now here we're in Google Forms homepage. You can get there simply by clicking on the launch pad and clicking on the icon for Forms. Okay. You want to click on a new blank form. Now let's go ahead and call this demographic questions. You name anything you want. I just picked something to be easy for me to recognize. Now, when you're doing a blank form, you can click over here and it'll copy the title that you put here. So my first question I'm going to ask is student name, parentheses, last name, comma, first name. Well, I wrote it in the wrong place. Excuse me. So I'll correct that. Put it here. The nice thing is Google Forms has a little bit of artificial intelligence in it, so when it sees what you put for the question, it takes its best guess at what type of question you're asking. In this case, it was right. I'm looking for a short answer question. Okay. I click on my Add Question button. Okay, I want student ID. Again, it's a short answer. But here, I want to use response validation, which checks what they answer. Student ID is going to be a number. It's going to be a whole number. And you can even customize the error message they get. So, please enter your student ID correctly. Okay. And then my final question, I'm going to call it, say, class period. Okay. Option 1, so we call it first block. Second block. Third block. Fourth block. Fifth block. Sixth block. Now, I put all 6 blocks because I don't know what periods you have. Here you would only put the periods that you have classified. And we're done making our demographic questions. Okay. It's already saved. Google Forms saves automatically. Okay. Importing questions. Now we're going to get into how to import. Okay. We're going to go back to Google Forms and click on the Google Forms icon in the upper left corner of your window in your blank form. Okay. In the next window, we're going to click on a blank quiz because we're making a quiz. Okay. So now we're ready to start making the remediation form. The next section we will cover making sections and importing questions. Okay, so let's go back and let's start the form out first. Okay. Go back to our demographic questions. We click on the icon over here in the upper left corner. It takes us back to the forum's homepage. Okay. We want to use blank quiz because it sets up automatic conditions that we want for the quiz. Some default settings. So we go. Okay. We're going to name this. I'm just going to call it Remediation Quiz. Unfortunately, for the quiz, it doesn't copy the title. Now, you could just create a blank form and then turn it into a quiz. Okay? It works the same way. Okay, now, we want to look at some things here. This is our responses. I would wait until you have created your questions before you create the spreadsheet. Now we're going to go look at settings. Okay, some things you need to consider for your quiz. Do you want them to get their grade right away or later after you do a manual review? If you have short answer questions, you're going to need to choose this one later after manual review. I personally prefer that one myself, so that I can look over it, because I may decide if there's a question that every student gets wrong, and I take a look at it and I see there's something that I did wrong in the question that is misleading to them, then I may want to throw that question out and not count it toward their grade. Okay? Locked mode. What this does, if they have a Chromebook, it locks it in what's called kiosk mode, which means the only thing they can do is the quiz. They can't open another window, but this only works on Chromebooks that are managed by your school system. Okay, so you don't want to turn this on if you have a mixture of laptops. Missed questions. Do you want the respondents to see which questions that were answered incorrectly? If you're only doing a review, you can turn this on. Correct answers, I would not release the correct answers until after I've graded them. Then I would let them know. If you're doing an actual test, I wouldn't do this one either. I'd turn it off. Can they see the total points and the points received for each question? I don't see a problem with that. Okay. Now here, you can set the default value for your questions. You can change an individual question as you're creating them, but by default, it will be set to this value. It's entirely up to you what you want to do. Responses. Collect email addresses. Do you want to send them a copy of their responses? You can if you want to. Since it collects their email address, it would automatically email it to them. Allow response editing. If this is a test, I would turn it off. Restrict users to LISD? Yes. Limit one response? Yes. If you're doing this as a test or a quiz, you can turn that on, and they only submit one response. You can later turn it off if you want to give them a chance to do it again. Presentation. Show progress bar. You let them know how far along they are in the quiz. Yes, you can do that. Shuffle question order. Since you're doing branching, it's really not going to make a difference what order it's done in. It'll just be weird watch branching to watch. So you can turn that on. This also allows for each kid to get a different, see the test differently. They may not be on the two kids sitting beside each other. Chances are they will not be on the same question at the same time. Confirmation message. What do you want them to see when they submit? And put has been submitted. See your teacher for your grade. Okay, and then click save. Okay. You want to see the review, the results, summary, and report anything? No. Disable auto save? No, you want it to save their responses. So if something happens with a laptop, they can come back. Collect. Now, these last two are defaults that are global. They affect all your quizzes. So I don't turn it on globally. I want, depending on the question. Default. Make all questions required by default. I have that one, which means they have to answer every question before they submit it. I'll show you how you can turn it off on individual questions. Okay, so we have all our settings set. Okay, so let's go back to our questions. Let's go back to our presentation. Okay, now icons for the form questions. There's some little things. This is your floating toolbar right here. First one, A, is to add questions. B is the import questions, which we'll go over in a moment. C is insert a title button. If you want to put a title to the top of the quiz or somewhere in one of the sections, you can do that. It's great for inserting text that you need to explain to them. D, insert a picture. You can, like, if you have a question that's going to deal with, say, in math, you're going to deal with a a geometric figure or diagram that has something for congruent triangles. You can have the picture that they're working with there for the next 2 or 3 questions, so you have something for them to refer to right there on the test, not a piece of paper they have to look at. Okay, insert video. Right now you can only insert YouTube videos, but it'll let you link to them and it will display there. That's great for the remediation, because you can link to a video to review the information that they got wrong, and hopefully they have a chance of getting it right again. And then F is for create a new section. We'll get into that shortly. Today we're mostly going to be using the import question button and the insert section button. Now it's become general practice now recommended that you insert a why statement at the beginning of your form, what the purpose is. You can put it, you can either create a separate section, you can put it at the beginning and then create a section for your demographics, or you can make it part of your demographics. I would make it part of the demographic. We're not going to be counting those 3 questions. They don't get points for putting their name and ID and what class period they are. Now we're ready to import the demographic questions we created earlier. Click on the import question button and you get a search window where you can type in the name of the forum you want to import questions from, in this case demographic questions. The name of the form appears and you can click on the name, and you'll return with your form with a side window available if you see the one over here. Check the boxes for the questions you want and then click the import questions button, and the selected questions will be added to your form. This comes in handy if you're picking and choosing questions from previous quizzes to create a test or create a review. You say you want to pick questions 1, 3, and 5. You can click just those 3 questions and import them. When you click on it, it'll get a little check mark. Or if you want them all, you can click on the select all button. Your choice. Okay. So let's stop here and let's go do our import. Okay. So go back to our remediation quiz. Let's insert our title section for our why. This form is for demonstrating the use of branching for remediation. Okay, that's my why statement. Now, I'm ready to import my questions. So I go import questions. Now, is this forums? Okay. Here's the one I just did. So I click on it. Or I can, if you don't see it in the list, you can type it in. And it comes in the list. So now, when you do that, you get your list of all your quizzes. Okay, you can select these, or if you decide you don't want these, you can change to a different form. Okay. And then right here, I want to import my 3 questions. And add them to my quiz right above the question where I was at. Okay. They're already added. Notice, since it's a quiz, it's got answer key right here. We don't want points. To create a new section, well, let's go back to our presentation so we can Now we're ready to start working on planning our branching. Before actually typing the questions, you must plan, and plan. Sometimes it's best to draw it out, better to draw it out on paper first. When you first start doing this and you having to get used to it, it's a good idea to just, maybe write them out or draw it out, diagram it so that I can grasp how I want to, where I want them to go, depending on their answer. Okay? You can use this diagram, which you'll see on the next slide. This is a link to the diagram itself. Okay. Or you can just simply draw it out on a sheet of paper how you want. But this is basically the two different ways that you can use, you can do the branching. Method A is you write each of your main questions, and once you have your main questions, then you write your remediation questions. Okay. Once you have that done, you decide your branching. Now, I'm only doing one remediation question per main question. You could go as far down the rabbit hole in creating the remediation questions as you wish. But for demonstration purposes, I wanted to do it this way. Method A, you write your main question 1, main question 2, main question 3. If they get main question 1 wrong, they go down to remediation question 1. They go through the remediation, then they answer another quiz question. If they get it right, they go branch back to question 2 and continue on. If they get it wrong, you have to decide whether you want to do it, try remediating again with a different slide or what. It's going to be up to you to decide how far you want to go. Remediation question 1, they go back to question 2. If they get question 1 wrong, you can have a little pilot one pop up that says, please see your teacher to arrange for attending tutorial, and then take it to main question 2. Then remediation question 2, they get it right, they go to question 3. They get it wrong, they go to remediation question 2, and so forth. Method B, which I kind of like, you do your main question, and then right after it you have the remediation question. Remember, you're going to be branching, so if they get it right, they're going to go to question 2 and skip over remediation question 1. The biggest difference, they both work the same way. The biggest difference is the order in which you type the questions. So what we're going to do, we're going to stop now, and you're going to give you time to go and plan out your question.